All right, we're here. Hey, John, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. Looking forward to doing another teardown. I know you love doing these. I love joining you for them. Today, we're going to be looking at a brand that I know nothing about. I know something about the space because it's a productivity planner type of thing
Okay.
or a journal. I guess we'll find out. But I've used those in the past. I have not used this particular one. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they've got in store for us. So the website we're going to be looking at is mindjournals.com. And this was submitted by Ollie. I'm not sure what his role is over there. Maybe he's the founder. I forgot to look, so apologies, Ollie. But here's your teardown. So let's just dive right in. This is a brand new window. I'll refresh it just to see if I missed any kind of. Usually, you see some kind of pop up come in with a
Mhm.
10-second delay, but I don't see anything yet. So, what's your first reaction to this hero section?
I think that I like the value proposition right up in front, right? Achieve anything you put your mind to with Mind Journal. Great. Start your journey to a happier and healthier you. Okay. So they state the value proposition really clear. And then I love the CTA of just get started. I think that works well. It's got some social proof that's a little grayed back, so it's kind of understated, not overtaking the page. But I've heard of Uncrate Inc., of course, Guardian. People know who all those are, um, and I appreciate that they're doing the free shipping bar instead of a discount. So that's all good, off to a good start.
Yeah, I like those too. A couple of things I'll say. The leaves on the left hand side, can you see those? They're a little
Hmm.
distracting for me. Like I don't know, it's a minor thing, but
Yeah.
those are the first things I noticed. Is like, whoa, are those supposed to be there? So maybe some more creative cropping of that background image would reduce that distraction, or maybe it's just a Jamesism for lack of a better term.
Well, I
But that
think
jumped
some
out at
eye
me. Oh, go ahead.
tracking would show that that's definitely the case, right? Because my eye went there first too. So you're not
Yeah,
alone on that, and it's really not adding value to have it. So I could definitely see just moving the image, 20 pixels over would
yeah.
take care of it.
And I think it's interesting this get started. I'll be interested to see what that button does, and maybe we'll click it next year. But like normally you'd see a shop now here or something like
Mhm.
that. So get started is a call to action that I'd expect to see out of a software product, not so much, a printed book like this. A couple other things that jumped out at me in the navigation are the priority given to reviews and support. Again, support is more of a software world kind of element that I would expect to see. I wouldn't expect there to be a lot of support with a product like this that seems relatively simple at first glance. So I'm surprised to see that given such prominence up here. And reviews, I kind of like seeing reviews appear. I don't know what it's going to show us, but I like that it's been deemed to be important. And from a consumer perspective, I could see somebody being interested in clicking on that and exploring it further. What do you think about those comments?
Well, I think that with something like a journal like this, right, where you're really having to put in some effort to really get effort, you what you put in is what you're going to get out on a journal like this, right? And that going in. And so I can understand having support for any questions that might come up is going to be helpful. Especially if most of these journals have their own type of system they want you to be working in, and to have some type of regimented process they want you to follow. So I think that's good to have it up front and center. Normally I wouldn't suggest having that up front and center in a navigation for an e-com site, which this basically is an e-commerce site, right? They're selling the book. Reviews, I really think having that in the flow of content is probably going to be better served. Most people aren't looking for reviews in a main navigation, but I also wonder if they were just trying to balance out. There's these middle logo navs, and then the brands always feel visually they have to balance out that nav. We've run a lot of tests on having the brand logo in the middle versus over to the left, where most consumers expect it. And almost always to a T, I'd say probably with 90% success, moving that logo to the left performs better.
Hmm.
And the main reason that we believe that to be the case is because we can almost always eliminate one or two nav items that were put in just to balance it out. And it's disruptive, right? We follow an F pattern in the Western culture where you start looking at the top left corner, you read across, then you come back down a little bit, then you look at the nav and come back down. Well, what's the first thing you want to know when you load up a site? That you're at the right place, right?
Mhm.
So that you're asking the consumer to increase their cognitive load by having to go search for that brand logo and find that in the middle of the page. So moving that over to the left would be my choice there. About, again, I think that content should be throughout the page, not necessarily in the navigation. And in which case, can you roll over shop? I'd love to see what that. Okay, so why not just have the journal and the jotter in the navigation, right?
Yeah.
And support. I think that's going to be a lot more helpful than reviews and about.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I know, with these logos, oftentimes we'll call those out and say, did you pay for an ad in this publication, or did they actually review your product, or did they interview you or something? And so maybe linking these to an article on your site, because you don't want somebody to leave your site ideally, but if you can pull down a copy of the Uncrate feature and put it on your blog or have it as a downloadable PDF or something like that, I would link these to that page so that somebody can go see what the context of that is, assuming that you're actually covered in, and it's not just an advertisement placement or whatever. So let's see about this next section here, the number one journal for men. So really this is being positioned as a productivity tool, a system to help you be more effective and think more clearly about your goals and everything. I'll just scroll slowly through this and you tell me when you want to stop when you see something interesting here.
Well, I love that they're guiding you, right, with you every step of the way. That's, again, with these systems, they're really prescribing something they want you to follow. And I love how they call out a signature check-in tool will help you with a habit and get you to stick with it. I think that's all great. More than just a notebook. If you keep scrolling down, I'm interested in what else you're getting out of this. Guidance support, somewhere to clear your mind. Okay, this is, I think if you're going to journal, like, this is a great way to give you a process to do it, because so many
Mm-hmm.
people just start journaling and then they dive out of it because it doesn't provide the value they were hoping for. So having some system around it is great. So, and I kind of like how they've niched down to being a journal for men.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they've done it in a way that isn't necessarily sexist by any means, but it is a niche, right? They're really jumping into it in a way that it's a little understated, but it makes sense. Like, if it's just something that could really be beneficial in their marketing to be able to niche down to that exact audience.
Yeah, I was just going to say, this is the first mention I noticed of guys here. A product imagery obviously had a man up here in the hero section, but it doesn't say like men or fellas achieve anything you put your mind to, right? Like it's just casual, very subtle, understated. You don't see any mention of that until, I mean, this is the first point I noticed it. So I wonder if that's an intentional decision or if that's maybe something worth testing and bringing it further up the page to make it more apparent from the start that this is either a product designed for a guy or a girl in a guy's life who wants to get him a gift, right?
Mhm.
But I do think it's clever to position yourself that way because I think the whole purpose of this tool, probably, if I were to make an assumption, is journaling is a valuable practice, but everybody hates staring at a blank page. What do I even write? And so I'm guessing this gives you some prompts. This gives you some structure around like, how are you feeling, whatever. So it gets kind of that pen flowing and helps you build
Mhm.
that habit. So I think it's just clever of them to focus on men who I would assume are much less likely to document their feelings, their emotions, their experiences on paper. Yeah, I think that's clever. And I like this product photo here, how the light is kind of coming in at an angle that shows the texture, which like that's the
Mhm.
first time I noticed that for many of these product photos. So I think that's really tastefully done. I feel like good product photography is becoming kind of table stakes now for e-commerce brands. So it's good to see them check that box. What about this feature section here? Now that we're about roughly halfway down the homepage. Um,
Yeah, I'm always one for having simple headlines with a little bit of iconography like this. I think it plays off really, really well here in helping me understand what I'm going to get in the journal, right? Because short of just showing everybody what's inside the journal, in which case you're giving away the IP because they could print that off or replicate it, right? You want to sell them a book, so you got to tell them what's in there.
mhm.
And I like that, they're giving me, again, they're using that word guided. They're using a word like exercises. They're making sure that beginners know it's good, that they offer the check-in tools. So I think they're really selling a journal, but they're selling a system and a support system. And I think
Right.
that's really being communicated well. So I do like that.
Yeah, I wonder. I'd like to see them explore more instead of iconography, something based in realism, right? Like you could almost have a snapshot of the relevant page for these stages of self discovery. If there's some kind of questionnaire in the book, just show us a sneak peek of that, or the life
Mhm.
changing exercises, like show us a sneak peek of that page that has the prompt where you're thinking about where you want to be in 10 years or whatever. Like, to me, layering the product into this section might be more compelling, but it's worth testing. And some of the stuff you might not be able to, like based on scientific research, that's fairly generic, but you might be able to show a screenshot of a study that somebody did about journaling that's published on your blog, or link to a blog article there or something, right? So you can still tie it back to your brand, but give more tangible elements to this versus just kind of like artistic interpretation. So then
And
they've got
I
this.
agree with that. Sorry to interrupt. I agree with that too, where you've got uh, it's pretty generic to say that it's loved by thousands of guys,
Mhm.
right? If you could get more specific there and say something like, over 500 5-star reviews, right? Where
Yeah,
you're really getting specific because, you could say that, the good is loved by thousands of clients. But I mean, how do how do we substantiate that, right? And what that it's just not as convincing as being very specific with those numbers. So that
yeah,
whole
yeah. Like
section, I agree, could
I
be.
even saw if you have a list of reviews here, like just take a screenshot of three of those reviews and stack them, like with a person's face and 5 stars and just two lines. And you don't even have to be able to read the lines, but at least you're visually representing like these thousands of guys. Like we have thousands of reviews on our product page or whatever. Like that's a more compelling element here than just a smiley face that isn't even like visually apparently male, right? So that's just a recommendation there. And then we get into this About Us section, which I'm guessing is going to just link to the About page and tell their story of their company. And then this is their review section, which, man, I was really expecting to see a slider here or a carousel or something. But it's truly just like one from nondescript Adrian, uh, super compelling review and testimonial, I'm sure. But yeah, I was hoping to see more here, I think.
I I agree with having more than one perhaps could be helpful, but I think this is not as impactful as it could be, only because you're saying it's real guys, real reviews, but nobody's reading this huge paragraph from Adrian,
Hmm.
right? Really, what's the one sentence that you want everybody to hear from him, right?
Hmm.
Um, not only has it allowed me to express myself in a variety of ways, but also given me strength and hope. Like, I feel like that might be the most powerful line there, or it has given me
Right.
the tools and techniques to make long lasting change in life. So you have options there, but what I'm trying to say is it's getting lost. Nobody's reading this entire paragraph, most likely. I bet if we did eye tracking on this, people read the first couple of words and then maybe look at the name and they skip on.
Yeah.
So you could even have a couple of sentences, as you mentioned, James. The other thing is putting a photo there, right? Just put a
Yeah.
headshot. It doesn't have to be super polished, but something that looks real. And obviously, don't fake it with a stock image or anything. But you getting your customers to make it more real could go a long way here.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you have 500 plus reviews, and you say real guys, real reviews. So I would expect to see at least a face and a
Mhm.
name, like Adrian S would be fine, whatever. But I was thinking for this section, from a design aesthetic, like almost have a couple screenshots of those reviews kind of creeping up from the bottom of the section. You know what I mean? Like kind of where the light gray starts, and just kind of layer them across the bottom. So
Mhm.
you're visually showing like maybe 5 reviews kind of layered on top of one another as a bottom border for this section, and then show the one that's most compelling at the top, larger text, one sentence, name, face, maybe even some kind of a verified badge, like a check mark or
Mhm.
something like that, to show like Adrian actually bought the thing and he said this, right? So that'd be really cool. Let's do the footer really quickly, and then we'll hop over to a product page.
I really like what they did with the subscribe here. They hit on all the check marks, right? They tell you exactly what you're going to get, when you're going to get it, how often you're going to get it. So that's amazing. And then they have the short privacy statement there. So this is the best, that I've seen of an email subscribe form. They're checking every box. So I love seeing that. And then the footer, I think they're doing a pretty good job. The contact information I'd love to see in its own column on the far right, maybe above follow us. That's really where people want that information. If somebody wants to reach out to you, they're gonna scroll all the way down to the footer and look in the bottom right hand corner. So you're kind of hiding that address right now. So moving that into its own column, putting a support email there, and perhaps even a phone number would go a long way. I love how they have shop as its own column. That's the way it should be. Read and info, it's all super clear. The only thing I would get rid of here is the payment icons. Unnecessary, not really helpful. They've got MasterCard in there twice, but like that's just, I would just eliminate them all, quite honestly. The reason being that I don't know about you, but when was the last time you bought something online and they didn't take a form of payment you had available to you?
Right. Yeah.
Right. So it's really not necessary. It doesn't add value. And it just makes people wonder, like, oh, what is that? That is, a lot of people don't know what Shop Pay is, for instance, right? So I know that's a Shop Pay icon, but I'm in the industry, right? So I think it's just a matter of making it easy for people to purchase, but you don't need to tell them that in your footer.
Yeah, totally agree. I will say this is the best like newsletter subscription form I've seen for a while, and I think this product lends itself to that. If it's a daily journaling habit, then having a weekly newsletter about personal development or productivity or whatever, that makes sense. But I like that they got the product layered in here as well too. So really great job on that. And then I'm glad you brought up the payment icons, because I was going to ask that. Like, I'm used to seeing those on the checkout page or the product page, but here at the bottom of the homepage, are they really adding any value? I don't know. So yeah, I'd love to figure out what the guidebook is or check out this reviews page, but we just got a few minutes here. Do you want to look at the journal or the jotter?
Let's do the journal. Feel like that's the main product. I'd love to see more about that.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay. That was a bit of an interesting load there. Did you catch that, where it was like, I don't know, everything, it was like delayed a little bit, and all these tiles were kind of in a rectangle up in the top corner, and then everything else came in. I don't know if that's something that you see normally, or
No, not normally. I feel like it's a likely a caching issue or something of that sort, but it didn't seem too disruptive, but it definitely was a little bit of a blip there.
yeah. Um, so in general, I think that this gives me a pretty positive impression of the product itself. Like, it's got enough information above the fold here for me to at least consider like exploring. I would probably click through to try to see what some of the pages are all about, to get a feel for what I'm going to be asked to do on a daily or weekly basis. So I like that these are, you can zoom in, you can actually read what's on the page. I know a lot of these things are trying to kind of keep their IP private, I guess, from competitors, because it's fairly easy to rip this off, I would guess. But I like some of the reinforcement here in terms of free shipping in the US and the UK, which that caveat was not, it does say free US shipping here on orders. And that's localized to me. I wonder if that would say UK if I was in the UK. That's kind of cool. But then you have this ambiguous happiness guarantee, and it's got the asterisk, but that's all the way at the bottom. So I wonder if they could lead with a little more information there. And then, is 100% secure checkout really like a thing anymore? Like, I feel like pretty much every store should have that. If it doesn't, it's kind of out of place. So what do you think about the top of this?
Okay, so first of all, I love the product imagery, as you called out, right? I think they did a good job with that. I was wondering why, if they're willing to show that here, let's just show it on the homepage too, right? In that section with the icons that you mentioned, having more detail there. I think you could easily do that in that area. And then, I think that the big paragraph description could be broken up into a few sentences so it's easier to read. People online skim, right? They don't read, they skim. And so on a product detail page, you want to hit on the main points. We often recommend just doing bullet points instead of a paragraph. That usually, if you want to have more content, do it further down the page. That's a good opportunity. I like that they do the reassurance with 598 reviews and give you the stars. That's great. I agree about the secure checkout. I would not have that here. A lot of brands feel like they are, adding a reassurance tool by having that in here. Instead, they're injecting fear, because honestly, you and I wasn't, and I assume you weren't thinking about, do they have a secure checkout? We just assume they do. As you said, it's a table stake, right? Especially if you're using something like Shopify, et cetera. Like, that's out of the hands of the of the brand, quite honestly. And so the reality is that when you have something like that, consumers start thinking about, oh, is it a secure checkout? What happened on your site that you have to list that there? Right? Were you hacked? And I need to be concerned about that. Right. So there's a lot of things that injects instead of providing the security blanket that's intended.
Yeah, totally agree. And I'm glad they didn't fall into the trap of spec dumping here. Like I see a lot of people, especially with a productivity journal, they'll say lay flat design and premium
Mhm.
matte paper and all this stuff. And it's like, do you really care about that? Like, I guess it's nice to have, but I'm not here for the book design. I can buy a beautiful book. I want the system. I want, your newsletter. I
Mhm.
want your community, whatever you've got going on. Like, they didn't fall into that trap. So I like that. Like, it's fine to have that. I just think it should go further down the page, not in this section. So I'm glad to see that they avoided that. They're bringing some of that social proof from the homepage background here. So that's good. And then this kind of looks like a fairly long product page. So maybe I'll just gradually scroll through, but it looks like it's got a little bit of a storytelling element. We're bringing back some of those iconography examples, but in this time, it's more about like how to use the thing. Anything jump out at you as interesting or
Well, like
compelling
you
here?
mentioned, I'm glad they didn't do the specs up top. But to have them down here is helpful for people who do want to know about those
Yeah,
things. And so you want it on there. But I mean, I don't know what 264 ruled 110 GSM ivory pages means. Like,
right.
I don't know. Doesn't matter. But if I'm really into paper, maybe I care, right? And I think what their goal here is to communicate. It's a premium experience, and I've
Mhm.
been getting that throughout the site for sure. It is a guided premium experience for sure.
Yeah, I like that they have this section here because what I know as a consumer of these is like, I always wonder, is this going to last me for 3 months, 6 months, a
Mhm.
year? And so they kind of spell that out here because sometimes, I'm opposed to paying $42 for a journal if it's going to last me the whole year. But if it's only going to last me 3 months and then I have to go spend another $42, like, I don't know,
Yeah.
that might raise some budget concerns for me. So I'm glad that they spell it out fairly clearly there. Um, and then this looks like they're diving into the individual elements. Like, here's your check-in. You're going to check in every day. So this is some of that product photography. They're like, yeah, just crop this to whatever like dimensions you need for that
Mhm.
section on the homepage, and just drop this picture in there. Like that's a perfect example of showing the product while trying to communicate some of those features and benefits.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the guided exercises. I know what I'm getting every day. Um, I think this is all really, really well done
Yeah.
so far. So really good information. I'm a little concerned about the reviews because they have a big write a review button in there.
Mhm.
I would just eliminate that button. The reason is it decreases trust with the viewers. The visitors to your page want to know they're all verified reviews. Well, okay, so you have verified buyer next to them. The biggest challenge I see though is that brands have this right of review, and then consumers immediately still just they don't trust the reviews because anyone can come leave a review.
Right.
So highly recommend just eliminating that button. And I promise you, it's not going to hurt the amount of reviews you're collecting because nobody is coming back to a product detail page to leave a review. You have to prompt them via email. That's really the only way to get a review these days.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is that nobody's coming here to write their review. They're going to go through another channel. And what might be more interesting here is almost a button that says like read a random review, right? Like
Mhm.
just stumble upon one and we'll pull one for you because we're so confident that it's going to be positive. We'll just drop one on there. But the other thing that I'm noticing, and I'm going to scroll down here just to verify this assumption, but I'm not seeing, okay, there's the first 2 star, but like this is pretty uniformly 5 star reviews.
Yep.
And while that may be true, we often say like that can actually be a hesitation for a potential customer just because nothing is 5 stars 100% of the time. There's always somebody out there that's going to give it 4 at least, right? So,
Mhm.
yeah, just wanted to call that out. And I'm sure they exist, but like because there's no filtering system here, there's no
Mhm.
way to hone in on the 3 star reviews to figure out those moderates. So there's no way to look at like what the people who rated it 1 star had complaints
Yeah.
about. So
Well,
maybe
and I
that's
think
something to
it's a big
consider.
missed opportunity as well with the one who says when the shoe doesn't fit, that 2-star review,
Hmm.
to reply to the review in line and
Yeah.
just show that you're addressing these concerns. And I think that's what's the key. Consumers, as you said, they know that sometimes it just doesn't work out. It's not always the perfect fit, and that's okay. But it's how as a brand handles that makes a big difference. So there's a huge opportunity here to do inline reviews, responses to the reviews, excuse me, and just say, address their concern and say, we have this happiness guarantee. I hope contact customer support and we'll make sure you get a refund or you're getting taken care of.
Yeah.
And I think that would go a long way for people just to be reassured.
Yeah, I've seen some studies that say you can build more customer loyalty by fixing a bad situation than if they just had a good situation from the start, because they love that you're there for them and you're willing to address their concerns or fix a problem. So
Mhm.
we're almost to the end of the product page here, just 30 seconds maybe on the last part of this. Anything jump out at you? So this is a final CTA, has that start now kind of
I love
call
that.
to action button again. And then this is the last little like reassurance. Here's the happiness guarantee. So you're coming all the way back down here. So yeah, 30-day full refund, no questions asked. Just put that up front. Just don't call it the happiness guarantee. Just call it 30-day refund, no questions asked, or 30-day
Yeah.
risk-free trial or something. Like,
Yeah, I agree
why
with
not?
that. And they put the star everywhere next to the happiness guarantee, but I have yet to see what the details of that star are. When I see a guarantee like that with the little star there, I get kind of worrisome that maybe there's like gotcha in that guarantee that I'm not going to know.
Mhm.
And like, hey, happiness guarantee, but if you have written in the journal, you can't return it, right? Or something like that that
Yeah.
you just don't know. So I think just saying, we'll refund full refund, refunds, no questions asked, or no question asked refunds, something of
Yeah.
that sort would go a long way, I think, to
Yeah.
eliminating those concerns.
And then it looks like we've got the standard footer, so nothing else to cover there. One last thing I'll throw out there personally is I'd love to see a video somewhere on this site. I'd love to see
Mm,
somebody using the product, flipping through the pages, actually writing down their notes, something to show me it in use, because that's my experience day to day. If I buy this, I want to see like that person, and hopefully with some kind of voiceover. Like when I started using the Mind Journal, I was all over the place, but I made it a part of my morning routine and my evening routine to recap my day, yada, yada, yada. That almost writes itself, right? But I just want to see that kind of like dynamic visual element to show me the product in use, and tell me about a before and after story. I think that would be incredibly compelling, especially like on the homepage or down here near the bottom where you get that final kind of CTA here. Like, what if this was just a video? Like, if you're on the
mhm.
fence, watch this. You're going to love it.
Even the personal message from the founder, it was alluded to that they had a personal crisis that led them to doing this.
Mhm.
Um, Having a video from the founder about that and just why they did this will, I think, could really, really be helpful on this site for sure. So
Awesome. Well, John, we'll wrap it up there. Thanks so much for your time today. I'll look forward to doing another one with you soon. And as always, really appreciate your insights.
awesome. Thanks for having me.